Now, welcome back to On Location. Here we are back in the studios of Beatty Televisual, and we're talking with an old friend, and that's Erika Holst. Erika, she is curator of the Edwards Place, and thank you so much for coming back to visit us again. Now, I understand that the Edwards Place is in kind of need of some assistance at this point.
Absolutely. Well, the last time we talked about how we're undergoing a restoration at Edwards Place, which is moving forward, and we're hitting all our goals at this point and doing well. One of the components of that restoration is we are restoring the Lincoln courting couch. This is the couch that Abraham and Mary Lincoln sat on while they were courting. It dates to the 1830s. This is up in Chicago, and we fundraised for it, and it turned out that the price tag for restoration is more than we anticipated it would be by more than double. So we're seeking some assistance to finish the job, but there's a great story associated with it and a lot of neat things being revealed.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning, and that's with Abraham Lincoln and Mary Todd. When did they meet, and what was the courting situation like back in those days?
Yeah, that's a great place to start. So in 1837, Abraham Lincoln came to Springfield, and of course, we know Lincoln's story. He was born in a log cabin. His family was not distinguished. He really didn't have two nickels to rub together. He was a lawyer. He was a good lawyer. He was a good politician, but he didn't have any family background or, wasn't a very distinguished person. And he met Mary Todd. Now, Lincoln's law partner, John T. Stewart, was Mary Todd's first cousin. Lincoln was also friends with Ninian Edwards, who was Mary's brother-in-law, so he probably met her through one of her family members. And Mary was Lincoln's complete opposite in many ways. She came from an excellent family. The Todds were very aristocratic. She had plenty of money. She was very well educated. She was kind of at the top of society. And so there's these two sort of opposites attracting almost, but they had a lot in common as well. They had both lost their mothers at an early age. They were both very into politics. They were Whigs, and the presidential campaign was getting underway. They both loved poetry. So they kind of hit it off, and they started courting. And because Mary was living with her sister and brother-in-law in those times, a gentleman would approach a family for permission to call on a young woman, and he would go to her house and visit with her. So Lincoln and Mary would visit in Ninian and Elizabeth's parlor, and they would talk politics or poetry or gossip about people they knew, and not too different from people today.
Now, not too different, but certainly a lot more strict than maybe people courting today would be. So, the significance of that courting couch?
Well, the significance of the courting couch is that that's the sofa that was in Ninian and Elizabeth's parlor. And so when Lincoln and Mary are sitting together, they're sitting on that sofa. And it's such a fabulous object because there's so little that survives in connection with Lincoln and Mary, and especially in terms of this time when they're courting, when they're getting to know each other. And they broke up at one point, they got back together, they had kind of this rocky courtship. People still today debate whether Lincoln loved Mary and whether she was crazy. It's this very deeply affecting romance and personal story, and there's no artifacts left to tie it together. The house has been torn down. Any letters that they exchanged at that time don't survive. This courting couch is it. This is our only tangible link to that just fascinating time when Lincoln and Mary were courting.
Now, all the people out there, some of them, I'm sure, are wondering, how do you prove that this is the couch?
This is so true. It's not like Lincoln carved AL plus MT on the armrest, although if he did, that would be amazing. We are lucky enough to have some pieces of evidence. The best one is a handwritten document from Ninian and Elizabeth's granddaughter, so the original owners of the sofa. Their granddaughter wrote out a piece of paper that said this sofa, she essentially said, belonged to my grandmother. It was one of a pair that stood in her double parlors when Lincoln was calling there to court Miss Mary Todd. it was there the night that the Lincolns were married. And so that's pretty good. You have sometimes you have stories associated with something, but to have something in writing from a family member. There's also another postcard out there that survives. It's when probably the sofa's identical twin was in the Lincoln home. Someone came by to visit and wrote on the back of the postcard, this is the sofa that Lincoln and Mary courted on. He would sit on one side and she would sit on the other. So it's as strong a proof as you can get for an object that's almost 180 years old.
Right, and it's an actual handwritten letter, and that's what we're showing the audience right now as far as what you have provided us. Now, big process, taking this couch and you're sending it for renovation or renewal, I guess you could say.
Yes.
And so whereabouts are you sending this, and what do they have to do with it?
We're sending it to the Conservation Center in Chicago, which is just a top-notch facility that can conserve and restore artifacts and paintings and antiques. And it's 180 years old, so the sofa's, been beat up a little bit over the years. It's got a couple of casters that aren't properly attached. Part of the back was broken and reattached improperly at one point. There's a tear in the upholstery. The veneer is chipped. It could use a good cleaning. And of course, this isn't, it's an old, delicate object, so it's something that takes a certain amount of skill and science to accomplish properly.
Now, I've seen these pictures, and it looks like they're taking them apart very diligently, piece by piece, and inspecting things, and I understand they've made some interesting discoveries.
Absolutely. So our suspicion when we sent it up there was that the seat was original, the fabric on the back was a replacement. And their conservators took a look at it, and they said, yes, the back is definitely a replacement. I said, can you find horsehair to match the seat? Will we be able to replicate that look? And they looked closer and they said, you know what? I think the original is still under there. And sure enough, they peeled back that seat and they found the original upholstery with this just gorgeous design that seemed to have been pressed in using steam, and just thrilling. Hidden right there in plain sight was the very seat rest that Lincoln and Mary sat against, and we thought it was lost forever, and it was there the whole time.
It's amazing that they had the forethought to actually put that in there and keep it around, because we kind of live in a throwaway society today, and some people wouldn't have given any thought to maybe just tossing that, but the historical significance of such a piece of cloth, even just a piece of cloth, is such a valuable item to keep and treasure. So now they're going to do this renovation, and this is going to require just a little bit of additional funding. So tell us about how much more additional funding, and how are we going to go about raising that money?
Absolutely. So we did do some fundraising in anticipation. We got some private donations. We are supported and endorsed by the Abraham Lincoln Association and the Abraham Lincoln Bicentennial Foundation. But the bill, in light of all the work that needs to be done with the sofa and the additional expense of caring for this newly revealed upholstery, turned out to be twice as much as we were expecting. So we have about $4,000 on hand. The final tally is going to be about $8,500. So we're looking to raise about another $4,500 to get the job done, which sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but the sofa has survived for 180 years, and our goal is to get it stabilized, looking its best, so that 180 more years of people can enjoy this just really unmatched relic of American history.
So how are you going about doing the fundraising? Can people just call up and donate money, or is there special projects that are going to have to be done?
Absolutely. You can always call the Springfield Art Association office at 217-523-2631 and talk to someone about making a donation. We are also going to launch a Kickstarter campaign. This is Conservation for the 21st Century. Kickstarter is kind of a crowdsourcing endeavor where anyone on the internet can look at our project on the Kickstarter website, and they can contribute as little as $5, as much as $1,000. And of course, every little bit helps, and whether we get 100 people who give us $10 each, or one person who gives us a couple thousand, we'll take it, and it'll all go to a good cause.
Now, this isn't the only fundraiser you have going on. You have the capital campaign that has started up. Now, when this couch gets repaired and and refurbished to an almost like new condition, I could imagine. But does it have to undergo certain environmental protection, like that it wouldn't get too humid or it wouldn't get too cold and stuff like that? What are going to be some of the hurdles you're going to have to jump when this thing comes back?
Well, as with the case of all antique objects, they like a certain temperature and they like a certain range of humidity, which is what we like to maintain in Edwards Place. Of course, it'll have to be roped off so no one sits on it, because the patched upholstery will be pretty delicate. And aside from that, it's just kind of making sure that no one touches it, the environment stays stable, and that should do it.
Now, the actual house, you're going through this major fundraiser to renovate the whole house, and that's a huge project. Are there any other objects in the house that would maybe require additional renovation as well?
There are, and you know that's on the list of things to do. We have this fantastic buffet that's signed by the cabinet maker, dated 1831, and he wrote the name of the person who bought it, which is Mrs. Salome Enos, one of the founders of Springfield. And so that's kind of a home run as far as antiques go. When you know who made it, when they made it, where they made it, he put Hamilton County, Ohio, and who bought it. That's just as good as you can get, and just a really gorgeous, very early, solidly documented piece of furniture, so that'd probably be the next one on my list.
And when we've talked about the Edwards Place and the Springfield Art Association that's over there, I can't help but always bring up the fact that it's such a enjoyable place to visit, and just to go through and experience the atmosphere of what it was like back in the 1800s. And it's always a beautiful thing to experience, and especially the work that when we visited you a couple of months ago, we went in the dining room, and that's actually where I talked to you before. And it's such a beautiful setting. And even at that rate, you've also put the actual you've actually put the picture up on your website of that dining room and the renovation. So it's certainly something to be proud of. And as you're sitting there, and even you're still discovering new things in this, almost 180-year-old home. So how's that make you feel to basically experience this, to live this day after day?
Oh gosh, it's so much fun, and Edwards Place is such a resource because of that. The Edwards family was very significant in Illinois history. Anyone who is anyone in Illinois history passed through those parlors at one point or another, and there are still secrets in the walls. As you mentioned, there's still discoveries being made, so as we move forward with this renovation, as the carpets come up and the wallpaper comes down, I know there's going to be new things that come to light, and I really just can't wait to see what they are.
Okay. Would you like to add anything else that maybe I didn't touch upon?
No, I just want to reiterate that the sofa is just such an important and exciting and kind of touching piece of American history. It's where two people fell in love. That sofa was there witnessing their marriage, a marriage that went on to have ups and downs and ultimately end with Lincoln's assassination. And that sofa was there for the beginning of it all. And just an exciting and really valuable piece of American history. And we're excited to be the people who are entrusted with conserving it for the future.
Well, we here at On Location are also excited that you brought this opportunity to us, and we hope that the people out there are going to be viewing this and support your destination, to support this fundraising goal. And again, I want to thank you very much, Erika, for coming in today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And so we hope to revisit again at some point coming up. And tell us how you're doing and how the fundraising activities are going, or maybe you've got another fundraiser coming up in the future, maybe for something additional to the capital campaign. So once again, we'll be looking forward to that, and thank you again.
Well, thanks so much.
And for our On Location crew, stand by for our next program. Thanks.